This is Surrender to Win, a look at what's holding you back from experiencing a life of peace and joy that God intends for us all. Your host is Brian Anderson, the program director and a substance abuse counselor at Rob's Ranch, a Christ-centered residential substance abuse treatment facility for men in Purcell, Oklahoma. This is Surrender to Win.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. I don't know about you, but I am glad it is Friday. I have had, I've had a pretty busy week or two. Kind of emotionally draining. Been some good stuff, some challenging stuff. The good stuff is, I'd like to say a big congratulations to my oldest daughter and her new fiance. She got asked the question Sunday on my wife and I's 24th wedding anniversary. And so I am really, really, really excited for her and her fiance and bringing those two families together. Her fiance is a good young man. I'm excited to have him into the family and for my daughter to join his family. It is a wonderful family. It's a new adventure for me. I will tell you that. This is my first and my oldest daughter, and I knew this time and this day was coming, but I don't know if you can ever really truly prepare yourself for it. It helps remind me that I'm getting older. My wonderful daughters are getting older. But it's a beautiful thing. They both love our Lord, and I just can't wait to see what the future brings for both of them. And so, hey, if you're listening out there, to both of you, congratulations. Just know that I am excited, and I look forward to this next chapter. So, hey, welcome to Surrender to Win. I am your host, Brian Anderson, and I am the program director and a substance abuse counselor at Rob's Ranch. Rob's Ranch is a Christ-centered, male-only 90-day addiction treatment facility. And I wanted to have this this opportunity to host this show and talk about some of the things that we talk about here at Rob's Ranch. I believe that at any given moment, there's somebody out there listening to this that is going through their own things and could use, maybe some support or use some ideas or use some motivation, if you will, to change their life. I'm going to try something new also this day. If you want to call into the show, the number here to the Surrender to Win show is 405-296-3222. Again, that's 405-296-3222. Feel free to call in if you got any comments or questions. I'll do my best to give you my opinion. I don't know if I'll answer anything, but we'll have fun talking about it at the very least. My oldest daughter, she recommended today that for today's show that I talk about codependency. And so I said, well, you know what? I'll take a look at it and see about having a show on that. And I'll tell you what, I did some research throughout the week on codependency. And man, I'll tell you what, it is a controversial subject of what I found out. I have found individuals on both sides of the argument about whether codependency is actually something that is real, or is it something that is made up and people are capitalizing and monopolizing on it in treatment facilities or what have you. I have my own opinion on codependency and what it is. I do believe it is a real thing. Now, the definition of what that is, that also varies and is wide according to whoever you're talking about. But I do believe it is real. I myself have at one time in my life experienced some of the common signs and symptoms of what is referred to as codependency. And so at the very least in my own life, I recognize what I believe is codependency. And by doing that, that gave me the opportunity to do something about it. And I think maybe the best way to judge whether or not codependency is real or not is for an individual to just simply ask themselves a question. And that question is does your relationships with other people, maybe it's people in general, maybe it is with a specific mate or individual, and does that relationship cause you problems? Is it spent more in time with negative interactions? Is the behavior of the individual you're in a relationship with or other people causing you problems? And I think for me, if the answer is yes, well then whether it's called codependency or called something else, maybe just recognize it that, hey, it's a problem. Once we recognize that something's a problem, then we have the choice, are we going to do something about it? And in my own life, I recognized that some of these signs and symptoms of codependency existed in my life. The next question I had was, well, how come? And, I don't know, at least for me, is there a definitive moment? Is there a definitive event? And I don't think so. I think it's just something that developed inside me. And, there's not one thing or one situation or one age group or anything that I identify and say, well, that's it. That's why. And I'm not so sure, at least in my opinion, that it's important for us to actually try and nail down, one thing or a couple of things and say, well, that's why. Some people it is. For me, it wasn't. One of the definitions I saw for codependency was something that says rescuing someone who continues to make poor choices is not called love. It is called enabling. Stop enabling and refuse to be a safety net so they can grow up. And enabling is one of those traits that are commonly associated with the term codependency. Some of the other definitions or some of the other traits that you can see and find in codependency, and these are not all inclusive. Some people are going to have some people are going to have all of them, a few of them. Either way, the signs and symptoms of these almost always inevitably create some type of challenge or dysfunction in a relationship. And so if you're wanting to look at yourself or you're wanting to look at somebody that you care about in your family, see if any of these apply to them. Does that individual have a hard time saying no? And I understand, it's not always easy to tell somebody no. But how often have you or somebody that you know simply would not say no out of fear of the other person being mad at them, the fear of not being liked, the fear of not being accepted, and so they say yes, or you say yes multiple times when actually you mean no. Does the individual have poor boundaries? Do they allow people to just walk all over them? Are they unable to set a boundary and enforce it? I see all the time, especially in this field, with families and other clients that I have, where families or wives or mothers or fathers, whatever, say, well, I'm just simply not going to let my loved one do this anymore. And then the loved one does it, and they don't stick to their boundaries. The reality is a boundary that we don't stick to is no boundary at all. It is just simply hollow statements. Is there a feeling that I am always compelled to take care of other people, even at the complete detriment of our own? Now, I'm not talking about people who actually need to be taken care of. And in fact, I know one of the toughest jobs out there is that of a caretaker. It is just absolutely exhausting. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is going back to that statement that I just said about rescuing someone who continues to make poor choices. That's not called love. That's called enabling. That is taking care of somebody that has the ability to take care of themselves. They're just not willing to do it. And as long as there's somebody there taking care of things that another person can do for themselves, that person will never, ever have the motivation to start doing it themselves. It just simply doesn't work that way. Is there another one of the traits is do you or does somebody you know feel a constant need to control other people? Control, and I'm not talking that it's always a very overt type of control. There's I think the first show I did here a couple weeks ago talked about the issue of control. Do we feel like we need to always have people do what we want them to do, or act the way we want them to act, or respond the way we want them to respond? Heck, I will tell you that in my own life, whenever someone in my family didn't respond the way I wanted them to, I felt that it was my place to confront them about it until they responded the way I want them to. And what I realized over the years was that was wrong. I was completely in the wrong. Every person is entitled to their own feelings. They are entitled to respond the way they want to respond. Each individual is their own human being. God gave us the gift of free will. And that simply means I was given the gift to do what I want to do and respond the way I want to respond. Whether it's healthy, whether it's inappropriate, whether it's negative, whether it's positive, whatever. God still gave me the gift of free will. Now, as a human being, who am I to impede on somebody else's free will? A gift that God gave. And once I realized that, and once I came to the understanding that that was pretty arrogant on my part, to think that I could control what other people think, said, or did, that was a freeing moment for me. That was one of the number of things that gave me the ability to let go. Do you or someone you love have trouble communicating honestly? I see this all the time here at my facility. The inability to actually communicate with honesty. We either don't say something out of fear of hurting somebody's feelings, or we say something that's not true so we can make them feel better. Again, I'm not talking about giving supporting statements, etc. I'm talking about, pathologically lying about something out of fear of what someone else will think or say. Not being able to communicate. Do we communicate with our spouses honestly? One of the things I see a lot when I'm doing family sessions is one of the partners will say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And the other one will be like, "Oh, I don't care." And when I've explored that and gotten deeper into it, well, the individual actually did care. They just weren't willing to say what they truly felt. And usually it was because they were afraid the other person would get mad or lash out somehow. Well, folks, that is a red flag on the inability to communicate honestly. Another one of the signs that tend to be accepted as far as codependency go is, does the individual fixate on mistakes, either mistakes that they made or mistakes that other people made, and then try to fix them, especially mistakes that other people make. Are you trying to fix the mistakes that other people have made, especially if they're able to fix it themselves? Now, this doesn't mean that we can't help somebody and we can't support them and encourage them. But are you trying to fix a mistake that they made and they have the ability to fix it themselves? If you are, you may need to take a look at it. Another trait, characteristics, is a need to be liked by everyone. I think this is a huge problem in our world today. It was a humongous problem with me. My life was driven by needing to be liked by everyone. I was constantly in fear of what people thought of me, whether I was liked, whether I was accepted. And that fear of not being liked and that need to be liked by everyone literally drove, was one of the primary things in my life. And even though we've heard 1,000 times, not everyone's going to like you, and I knew this intellectually, but emotionally, that feeling never went away. A great example of how we can see this is, look at social media today. I mean, holy cow. Social media, I kid around, I often, or every once in a while, I'll put this little meme up on my Facebook account that says, hey, may your life be as glorious and wonderful as it is that you pretend on Facebook. And think about it. How many of us live an alternate life on social media? We spend countless hours, if not days and weeks, trying to project an image of how wonderful life is. So everyone will think it's great. But deep down inside, we are absolutely and totally miserable. And that goes back to that needing to be liked by everyone. Or we post something on social media and we get upset if we don't have, whatever amount of likes or retweets or shares that we hope for. And it's just, that is a element of codependency, in where we are depending on other people for our own emotions and for our own self-worth. Do you need to always be in a relationship? I mean, do you have a track pattern, or does somebody that you love have a track pattern of going from one relationship to another relationship to another relationship? And most of the time, those relationships repeat themselves, especially if they're unhealthy. Do you need to always be in a relationship? Do you feel absolutely miserable being alone? Is it just you can't function being alone? Might be something you want to take a look at. Do you deny your own needs, thoughts, and feelings for somebody else? This has nothing to do with being selfless. God tells us that we need to put others before ourselves, and I truly believe that. But that's not what I'm talking about. I do the best I can to put other people's needs before my own. But at the same token, I absolutely will not allow myself to be completely destroyed from the inside out by somebody who continually and over and over and over again violates boundaries, takes advantage of myself or my family, absolutely refuses to do the things that they need to do, that they are capable of doing, that's their choice. And if that's what they choose, then so be it. I am not going to destroy myself over somebody else. Do you or somebody know have intimacy issues? What does intimacy look like to you? And I'm not just talking about physical intimacy. I'm talking about emotional intimacy. What does that look like for you? Do you or somebody know confuse love and pity? Do you know what the difference between the two are? Do we feel sorry for somebody and confuse it for love? Do you have a fear of abandonment? I see this a lot, especially with individuals that grew up in maybe a less than healthy environment. Maybe they had an alcoholic parent or a parent that, abandoned them. This also can relate back into people who have a great fear of being alone. And am I saying that if somebody is codependent and they have those issues that, it had to have stemmed from childhood? No, I'm not. But I do see a tremendous amount of correlation at times between people who have experienced some type of attachment issues or abandonment issues or abuse growing up as a childhood that manifest over time as they grow up into some of these unhealthy traits. Now, one of the things that is controversial about codependency is whether it is an actually diagnosable disorder, whether it should be included in our diagnostic manuals, etc., etc. And I'll be honest, I really don't care at this point. My point with this particular show today is not whether or not it is a psychologically diagnosable disorder, because I don't think that that's necessarily important at this time. But is there something going on in your life? Is there something that is causing you not to live and have that peace and joy that God has intended for us? The Bible talks about Christ leaving us a peace that surpasses all understanding, that even in the midst of a storm and chaos and everything that goes with it, we can have peace. And I've experienced that myself. I go through the same type of challenges and ups and downs that everybody goes through in everyday normal life. But I have a sense of peace that's always there. And that is something that is relatively new in my life, all things considered. When I actually had to go through and receive my own treatment for trauma from my combat service in the military, my own substance abuse, through my time in treatment and hard work, and developing a true spiritual relationship with Christ, I now have a peace that surpasses all understanding. And as I said at the beginning of the show, I've had a heck of a couple weeks with stuff going on with my family, both good and challenging. And yet throughout the entire time, there's been a peace that has just existed. And that peace is something that is just something you can't put a price on. So do you have that? Or are we still out there trying to gain our self-worth and gain our acceptance and gain our purpose in life and trying to be liked by everyone and afraid to say no? All of those things, are we trying to do those things in attempts to garner some type of emotional stability and feelings. Something I tell other individuals I'm working with, and sometimes when I'm giving presentations, is the thing about codependency enabling is it's really not about truly helping the other person. Yeah, we end up helping the other individual, and it's not always good, but we do. However, the enabling and the codependency is more about you. It's more about the individual doing the enabling. It's more about the person who is the codependent. What I mean by that is that emotional discomfort about not being able to say no. That emotional discomfort about actually always needing everyone to like us. That emotional discomfort that someone might be angry at us and not like us. That emotional discomfort of watching somebody else have some emotional pain, even though that person can do something themselves. That emotional pain is usually what drives individuals into codependency and or enabling. I don't want to feel this way, therefore I'm going to try and control the situation and come up with a solution or fix something so I don't feel as uncomfortable. And in my opinion, that is just simply wrong. It doesn't do any good in the long run. It might help the situation right then and there, but in the long run, it almost always makes things worse. So, codependency, man, it is a controversial, I guess, if you want to call it. As I said, I went back and forth looking at different articles, all the way from individuals, doctors, other therapists, life coaches, psychiatrists, you name it. And for as many articles I could find of people saying, no, codependency it's a myth, it doesn't actually exist, it's wrapped up in other things, to people who said, nope, codependency is its own disease, it's its own mental health disorder, it's real, it's true. Bottom line for me is at this point today, I don't care how you classify it. I think it's up to the individual themselves to ask themselves, am I okay with life the way it is today? Am I okay with this relationship? Am I okay with what the other person is doing in my life or how it affects my life? Are they capable of doing something for themselves and they're just not doing it? Am I taking care of all this stuff that is really not my responsibility to take care of, but gosh, I'm going to take care of it because I don't want to feel bad? If some of those things are present, then I challenge you, take a look. Take a look at yourself deeply and come up with your own answer. And if you find that it's not acceptable for you, then I challenge you, take a risk and do something about it. Okay. Well, hey guys, man, again, 30 minutes is almost up. It's Friday. I'm looking forward to a break. I need a break. It's been a heck of a day or a heck of a week at work. A couple things, guys. If you or somebody you know out there is needing some help, a great organization out there is Storm. They are a wealth of knowledge on resources on how to get a hold of treatment facilities, and they can steer you from point A to point Z all the way through the process. If you're interested, give them a call at 405-503-7442. Again, that's 405-503-7442. You can find them on Facebook, and that's Storm Strategic Treatment Options and Recovery Ministries. They've got a great staff and are able to really help people out. If you think you are having an issue with codependency and you want to take a look at doing something about it, there's an organization called Green Shoe. You can find out more about them at www.greenshoe.org, or you can get a hold of them at 405-697-2109, 405-697-2109. And lastly, if you guys are wanting to catch a great radio show on Saturday afternoons at 2 p.m. Central Time, listen to Mac Mulling's show, Rise Above Radio, where they talk about all things recovery, his own personal stories about recovery. It is a great show, and that is on AM 1520 and also FM 95.3 if you are in the Oklahoma City area, but you can catch them online as well. So, hey, guys, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your Friday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I know here in Oklahoma, I think we're supposed to be getting a whole bunch of rain, which, man, I'm not that excited about because I had some stuff I was going to do outside. But I don't know. We'll see. Guys, listen, if you're dealing with something, man, I encourage you, do something about it. Take a risk. Do the work. Life is absolutely amazing if we take care of these things. God has an amazing plan for you. He wants so much more than what we have usually. Do something. We'll see you guys next week. Have a blessed weekend.
If you or someone you know is struggling with substance abuse, call Rob's Ranch today, 405-253-3838.
Online at robsranch.org or find him on Facebook at Rob's Ranch.